talking about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network, brought to you by Q42, the barbecue sauce of Bill's Mafia. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the host of the Overreaction, wrong show, the Off Tackle with John Fina show. You're muted. How did you get muted? Why are you muted? There you go. Now you're unmuted. The host of the show, man, technical difficulties right at the top. I think I did this last week too. But and that over there is my guy, John Fina. John, how you feeling?
Yeah, you know, I don't know. To be determined. This one hurt.
This one hurt?
Yeah, I'm recovering. How about you? How you doing?
We can talk about it when we get to expectations here in a minute, but I think before we do that, there it is. The pop at the top of the show. So we got to get the pop at the top.
I'm opening my therapy.
I'm also drinking a beer this evening. I'm having a Corona, though, a little bit lighter version of what you're drinking.
That's La Cerveza Más Fina, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Indeed it is. So cheers, my friend.
Cheers
to you. But it's good to have all of you that are jumping into the comment section, into the chat. Welcome, everybody. Welcome if you're also listening to this in podcast form. Once again, this show is brought to you by Q42. And I think, John, you've got a little bit of a read for Q42 and our friend Iman.
Of course I do. Iman Aziz makes the best damn sauce. And what makes it so different than the rest? It's made in Western New York with real Western New York honey, real ingredients. He makes the ketchup and the mustard from scratch. I'm a cook and I don't even do that. For the other guys add fillers like high fructose corn syrup. Q42 puts in the time and the effort to cook up a sauce worthy of most serious tailgaters. The KC sauce is a crowd pleaser. The Carolina is a mustard lover's match. That is true. Go to Q42barbecue.com to get yours and enter the code Fina Show, all caps, to save 15%. Iman Aziz and Q42. I'm in a hotel room in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's still chilly in the room, but I think me shouting. I've got everybody's going to be on, Joe.
You're just looking dapper, bro. You are straight up looking dapper and gangster, and I love it. You look very Christmassy, like for being in Arizona. Like it's amazing.
Flagstaff, it's cold up here.
It's cold up there.
Love it. Yeah.
So we're not going to waste any time here on the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast and vidcast network. And we're going to get right into the thoughts of the game, because this game, you and I think, and we haven't talked, share a little bit of a different opinion of this game. And I have a reason why. So I'm going to let you go first when you think about the expectations and that you had going into this game and just the thoughts. And I know you come from a position as a player of we're going to win. Like you always come from that position of we have done the things we need to do this week to put ourselves in a position to win. So I know that you've got a little bit of a different take on the game than I do. So I'll let you go first. So thoughts on this football game?
Well, look, the things that I said they had to do, they didn't. I said they need to start fast on this team. It's an away game. I wasn't there. You were. I'm sure it was loud. And as soon as it got off to a slow start, I just said, we're in trouble. It's going to be rough. I mean, that was my number one thing. You got to start fast and score on these guys. But secondarily, you knew it was going to be a battle, and you got to trade body blows. If they slap you in the face, you got to punch them in the face. If they knife you in the gut, you got to shoot them in the shoulder with a gun. I mean, and we didn't do that. We were slow to respond. And, you know, it's hard to win a football game when you're behind like they were, you know, going into the half. So, look, they knew it was going to be a battle. Everybody knows, right? It's Tom Brady, Super Bowl champions, et cetera, whatever. But dear God, man, they needed to respond, and there was no response for 2 quarters. How about you? I mean, I'm aggravated. I'm really aggravated.
No, I like your energy and I like where you're coming from. I think for me, everything changed because I lowered my expectations. I came into this season, as you know, the Bills could go undefeated this year if they're playing what we think they're going to play and the defense shows up. And I think I finally got myself to the point after the Pats game, even with seeing a little bit of the flash at the end that we wanted to see from Josh Allen, where they finally gave him the ball at the end of the game, even in 50-mile-an-hour gusting winds at Highmark Stadium. That offense kind of came to life, but I still had kind of put myself in a position of, I'm going to enjoy this weekend. I'm going to enjoy the time connecting with the Mafia. I'm going to enjoy this game experience. And if the Bills win, it's going to be amazing, but I'm not expecting them to. So I kind of lowered my expectations for the game. I would say this about your question about the stadium and the atmosphere. The stadium was amazing. So to see the pirate ship in person was really, really cool.
It is cool, isn't it?
To hear the cannons fire, that was really cool. They did a very good. So one of my girls' favorite places when we go on vacation in Myrtle Beach is the pirate show that they do, which is like medieval times, but it's pirates. So they love it. So I've got some nostalgia and some personal emotional connection to the pirate ships and all the pirates and all that stuff. So it was all of that was really cool. I'll say this: the Bucks crowd sucked. They were good until the Bucks got the 10-0 lead, and then they were out of the game. They were completely quiet until the fourth quarter, which was wild to me because there was times I looked at some of the Buck fans around me and I was like, if we were at Highmark right now, the Mafia would be losing their minds, up 24-3.
Pile on.
We would be eating this alive, and you guys are like, bring me another beer. The atmosphere was totally different, and then a bunch of them left. A bunch of them thought the game was over just shortly after halftime. I think when the Bills did the last three or the first 3 and out coming off of halftime, a bunch of them left. And you heard when Milano sacks Tom Brady on that last Bucks drive, you hear it through the speakers of your television, how many Bills Mafia members were there and how loud we were. And it was a great experience altogether. So for me, my expectations being lowered, when it got to halftime, I was like, very much, well, this is what I thought was going to happen. So I was kind of in that mode, right, of I was expecting this. I was expecting the Bills. Yes, Josh is throwing the ball more, but they're still the passes are conservative. They can't find open guys. I'll say this: the Buccaneers largely did not play a cover 2 shell. They played a cover 1. Single man coverage for pretty much the whole game. There were times they went into cover 2, so it wasn't that. And the Bills are throwing screen passes in the first quarter, and I'm like, what are you doing? Find the open guy. And then they started to come back. And on my show last night, there was a moment where I said, and just like that, the Mafia started to believe again. And there was just a moment in that game where it's like, yes, this is my football team. You found them.
And that's the upside, right, Joe? I mean, that's the only thing we can take from this. But it's just to address what you said before. That's not a Josh Allen problem. That's a play calling problem. If they're in single high safety and not cover 2, somebody upstairs has got to recognize the defense and say, flip the card. Okay, now we're in our other play mode. And fortunately, I was at dance lesson and I missed the first half. Why are you laughing, dude? I just came off
Love it.
Dancing the Waltz with Stella, and now in February I got a 2-step with Stella for another charity event. It's awesome.
I am not laughing in a negative fashion. I'm laughing because #girl dad is the best dad. That's why I'm laughing. Girl, I got 2, and girl dad. I
got amazing daughters, so I'm a lucky guy.
So there was a lot for me in this football game. So when the Bills came back like that, and it sparked that, you're going to give me a reason to cheer. This isn't going to be. It's not going to be a horrible loss, and it's not going to be a fluky win. Because all of our wins this year seem to be relatively fluky, 35-0. But did the offense play? It was just weird games. They just looked like the Bills. Josh Allen was cut loose. And I think that for me was the biggest part of what I saw. So my expectations were more than met, even in the loss. And obviously the referee situation has to get fixed. I mean, we talked about that before the show started, and to not call the pass interference on Stephon Diggs that would have put the ball at the 1-yard line with 23 seconds left in the game, the Bills win that football game, and then to call it against Mike Evans on a 3rd down to give them a first down when Mike Evans grabs Levi Wallace's head and rips him to the ground, and they called pass interference on it. And that was just 2 of the plays.
Well, you knew it was going to start when they called Spencer and Stephon for movement penalty. When Brown is covered by the tight end, you got the line judge looking. I mean, all he did was shake himself a little bit, I mean, if his hand was down a little bit late, I mean, that's too ticky-tack to call.
Sure,
so if you're going to make that ticky-tack call, then make the mostly obvious call on Diggs on what should have been the next to last play of the game.
Yeah, agreed.
That's the crap burger right there. Because you're gonna make a ticky-tack 2 guys in motion call with a tackle who's might have his fingers an inch from the ground when the receiver's motioning cross formation, please. And then Brady throws a punch because he's mad at Ed Oliver, and they don't call that.
Right.
They called Josh Allen for throwing a football at a guy's head.
Yeah.
Not throwing a blow.
Yeah. And there was, I don't remember if it was in the first quarter or the second. I know you said you just rewatched the first. I think it's Ed Oliver as well. His helmet is on the ground. And the only way a defensive lineman's helmet is on the ground is if somebody's got illegal hands to the face. Like that should be an automatic flag every time a defender's like a lineman's helmet, either way, if their helmet's on the ground.
Though. I mean, he could have been putting his CPAP on. You never know.
They didn't see it, right? As far as that, I mean, in this football game, but it was, and we're just talking about
at some point, Joe.
Yeah.
They have to have enough self-actualization, enough self-awareness to realize that we are calling a lopsided flag game.
Right.
And the penalties they're calling on the Bills are daggers to the heart. And it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's shoddy. It's shoddy.
It was.
And if you need to add 2 back judges because a single back judge might not have been looking at Diggs, and you say the side back judge, whatever his title is, besides Mr. Magoo, if he can't see through the receiver to what the defender's doing, you could make that argument in a freeze frame photograph. But that was a Cuomo style groping that happened. It wasn't short, and it wasn't innocuous.
That was only one
Cuomo style. Pick a brother.
There's the one where the dude's holding on to Stephon Diggs' shirt and holding him up, and then there's somebody has made a.
Oh, that's legal.
Yeah, well, there's somebody
in Latvia.
Somebody has made a parody account of the NFL officiating Twitter handle now, and there's a meme on that Twitter handle. And if you need to find it, you should. Anybody that's listening to me, and it's got the picture of the defender holding on to Stephon Diggs' shirt, like stretching it straight out because he's holding him back. And the meme says that the NFL has decided that Stephon Diggs is going to be fined $10,000 for not having his shirt tucked in, like from that picture, and that's exactly what it is. But there was so much. So in the third quarter, Cole Beasley catches a ball, falls down about a half a yard beyond the yardage marker for the first down, and they spot the ball a yard back.
And
the Bills line up. They don't even challenge. The Bills just line up and go, and they get the first down. But I was like, what in the world?
So that was close. His left knee looked like he was down. I mean, that's kind of a no-harmer thing. I mean, we end up converting it. But I think the precedent there is just – it's just crazy, and we're used to this, right? You don't call OPI on Gronkowski. You don't call anything on Tom Brady's precious team,
right?
So here's my barometer for stuff like this. I've had 2 people call me today, talking business or whatever, and say, "Dear God, what happened in that game? Those officials were horrible." These are people that don't care who won the game, but they watched it and they just said, "This is." Fascinatingly, unequal. And I'm like, that to me, that's a telling point. When somebody who has no skin in the game, doesn't care, quite possibly could be rooting against me because of the hat. Who knows?
I don't think it's because of the hat. It was just strikingly awful. There was just so many things in this football game. At the end of the game, we're inside of 2 minutes. The Bills are driving the field. I think they were out of touchdowns. If you go back and you watch that sequence again,
timeouts.
They're out of timeouts. But I don't remember what the play was. But the line judge or somebody picks up the ball and just kind of walks,
kind of moseys over
to
spot it.
I was like, what is going on right now? Like the clock is running. The Bills can't stop it.
Maybe he's got a little hernia thing he's trying to protect. He doesn't want to exert himself. He's got like his general surgeon in his ear. I told you not to upset your hernia. Slow down.
I mean, this game literally goes back to, and I've talked about it a couple times this year. I don't know if I've talked about it on this show, the Houston Texans playoff game when the Houston Texans player receives the kickoff, turns around to toss it to the referee, and the ref's like, "Don't give me that football," throws it on the ground. The Bills jump on it, touchdown. And then the dude in a black jacket comes off of the sideline to talk to the head referee and then they reverse the call. Some dude, some phantom guy that nobody's ever seen before walks out on the field. I thought the head referee was in charge.
Oh, you're making me mad. It was Men in Black. They came out and like, look at the dot.
Yes, exactly. So that was this game was reminiscent of that to me. But yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat, which is great. Appreciate all you guys that are watching, tuned in. Here's the thing. We are Super Chat Live. If you want to get our attention, please throw a Super Chat in there. I'm not requiring you. If I see it and it's a good question, I'll throw it up, but we're having a conversation. So if I miss it, I apologize. Please don't be angry at us. But there's a bunch of people up in here, which is awesome. This is a great question, speaking of which. So Tom Whitmarsh asks, and thanks, Tom, for being a part of the show, who changed their play more in the second half, the Bills or the Bucs? I noticed that the Bucs were playing, their game plan changed. They were up 3 possessions in the third quarter, and it turned into a let's kind of like run this clock out. Let's grind this thing out, which to me is the kiss of death for defenses and teams when they do that. What is your opinion on this?
God, they all do it, right? It's aggravating. Like I never wanted to do it as an offense, just kind of bleed it out. Let's just throw the ball around the yard. I mean, I guess they also felt like, the running game was going to be substantial enough. And you're also kind of, can we run the ball and we run it successfully enough? We get a couple first downs, we make them burn their times out now. And that's, that can be pretty much the plan, I guess. When you're ahead by 3 scores, it's not a bad plan. It's not pretty football. But I'll tell you, as a player, I hated it. Yeah, I'm like, just do what we did in the first half. Let's just keep, it's the step on the neck mentality, right?
Yes.
And you get smacked in the face, you got to come back. And we didn't, and it was to a man, right? I mean, we had to wait till the second half, but I mean, we had calls go the wrong way. We had a couple of bad reads here and there, but by and large, I mean, you look at the second half, maybe we don't have that second half if they come out slinging it the same way. I don't know.
For sure. We got a super chat from Triggs. Triggs, thanks so much for being a part of the show. We all remember what Dean Blandino said last year. Now, I don't know if you were on Twitter today, but Dean Blandino is whatever, he's in charge of NFL officiating. And there's a video going around from actually a Bills game last year, I believe. It was the Rams game where they called an interference that extended the drive, and then the Bills won the game. And Dean Blandino basically came out and said, look, if the refs are going to make a call, if we are going to make a call and it's going to be a negative call, I would rather have that negative call go against a small market like Buffalo than a large market like the Rams. I'd rather the papers in Buffalo be writing about how bad we were than the papers in LA, is what he said. Which is, when you're in charge of NFL officiating, I don't know how he's still in charge of NFL officiating. You said that last year. Right. Yeah,
I honestly, I didn't hear that. I could have gone my entire life without hearing that kind of crap. Yeah. I mean, you should be unemployed if you're going to say that. I mean, don't we have like Senate inquiries into, somebody who takes steroids in college, or who's cheating in a baseball game or betting? Please, I mean, make the right call. Yeah. And honestly, I was watching the game, and there was a particular call, and I'm there with my family, and it went against the Bills. It was the right call. And I just nodded and said, yeah, it's the right call. Just make the right call. So that's, I wish you hadn't told me that. No,
yeah, I'll send you. I'll send you.
I'm finding you very upsetting at the moment.
I'm not being negative though. So let's be positive. So I'll send you that. I'll send you that.
I used to like Dean Blandino. Now I'm gonna have to start sending him hate tweets.
That's hysterical. But so this game, as far as from an expectation standpoint, it met my expectations. I was very pleased to see the Bills step up. I was very pleased to see Josh Allen. And if we get to the good, and I'll start with my good, because I noticed something in pregame warmups yesterday before the game, and generally speaking, because it intrigued me right away, and I was like, this isn't what they do ever. But in pregame warmups, they're lined up, whether it's in 7-on-7 or when they're doing just kind of the walkthrough with the lines on the field, but specifically in the 7-on-7s where it's just the wide receivers and the defensive backs. They have a dude snap the ball to Josh Allen or whatever quarterback, and he just kind of casually takes a step and throws, right? He's 3 yards back, 5 yards back, casually takes a step and throw. And I'm like, Josh Allen never does that. Why are they in pregame warmups, not him taking the ball at the snap and then dropping back 5 yards like he does? Why are they practicing something that they never do? And they do that every pregame. Like that's like the pregame warm-up thing. Just take the ball, casually step and throw, casually step and throw. Now in this game, the good to that point, and it kind of ruined my point, the ball started coming out really fast for Josh Allen. He was reacting quickly. Like he was getting away. I heard oohs and ahs. The one play where he dipped underneath the defensive back because the defensive back jumped up to get him, and he dipped under him and went, like, I heard oohs from the Buccaneers fans, like they're impressed by what he had just done. The ball was coming out really quick, which I think has been missing from this. Like you've talked about, Josh Allen dropping too deep, like and just holding the ball. The ball was coming out. It was coming out in rhythm. They were playing up tempo. Even the Bucs are up 3 possessions. They're still playing up tempo. Like they were snapping the ball with 20 seconds left on the clock. Like the whole game was up tempo. I loved seeing that from our offense. And I think it was a big part of why it was successful, because that's who we saw last year. Whereas this year, it hasn't been that.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. They went no huddle because they didn't want to see our defensive front rotate through.
Right.
But I think we could benefit. I think Josh gets into a groove. I think that no huddle benefits him. I think it benefits guys like Sanders, Beasley, and Diggs too. Just to catch the defensive backs, because you got to peak a little bit as a defensive back, on your alignments and making sure you're getting the calls right.
Right.
And all you need is a guy just to be a half a yard out of position. If you're going to make an inside release, you're gone. And if you're going to run a fade, you need to press the inside of the field and save the box for the ball to drop into. Half a yard is a million miles in football, right? Yeah. Until they have to spot it. Bunch of morons. But did I say that out loud?
You did.
Anyway, so I think you're onto something. Now, as far as the warm-ups go, I mean, you're just out there trying to loosen up your arm. I don't think the drops are that big of a deal. I honestly, you could be right, you could be wrong. I don't pay attention to warm-ups. I knew that when I warmed up, I had these things that I did that were like my superstitions. And I actually had somebody call me out on Twitter and say, I remember this thing you used to do. And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot I used to do that. So much of what I used to do and what many guys do before a game is like, it's hilarious, because if you put a camera up in the locker room, you would see guys do the same thing week in and week out. And it is fascinating. The stuff I did, I'm like, oh God, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to make sure I do X, Y, Z before the game. And I mean, I'm sure it meant we were going to win or lose,
That's hysterical.
It's hysterical.
Are you not going to give us a nugget of what you used to do that you don't want anybody to know about at all? Like, you're not going to teach us? Well, at least you didn't throw up before every game,
bro.
You didn't throw up before every game like Kelly, right? I mean, it's the old story about Kent Hall. So everybody would wait until Kelly threw up, and then Kent Hall would say, 12's ready.
So, okay, I'll give you one thing. Like,
all right.
Like my locker had to be organized. Like all the shelves, like my stuff had to be in the right spot.
Doesn't surprise me.
It would if you saw my car. I mean, what else did I do? I mean, there were like, there are all kinds of things, just like the process for getting dressed, like which trainer's going to tape you. Do you get taped after Joe Miller and before Pam Adana? Or, do you get taped at exactly 11:15 or is it 11:23? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And then, I mean, just like, how much of this do you drink? Where do you put your drink? I mean, it's
right.
And maybe I'm wrong. I feel like if there were ever anybody listening to this that played, they'd be like, man, Fina's a lunatic. Also true.
So we got a couple super chats before I get to, let's do this. So we'll get to super chats right now. So Triggs back in with the super chat. He says, but did you notice when Sanders was gone, Beasley was getting more targets and the offense was moving a little better? Yes, I noticed that. I'll let you go here in a second. I think there was more to Gabe Davis. So Gabe Davis made it critical, huge, like fourth down, basically all will, all heart, like kind of move when he got that fourth down. The catch, we caught it, moved, like gave up the yardage, and then forced his way back to the line to gain. To me, the story of Emmanuel Sanders being out was Gabe Davis's presence in this offense. I'm not sure that Beasley, as much as they didn't target Beasley early, I'm not sure that Beasley was benefiting from Sanders being out as much as Gabe Davis did. And Gabe Davis, I think, is a better run blocker he might be the best run blocker on this team as far as the wide receivers go.
And to address the question, it's hard to say. I don't think, I mean, I don't have any insight into the locker room. No one tells me anything anymore.
Mhm.
So I don't see that kind of superstar envy or
Mhm.
inequity kind of battles between the guys. I think that one good thing about this, well, there are many good things about this team. I think an aspect of this team that I really appreciate is that it doesn't seem to be ego driven, not by any position,
Yeah.
really. I mean, I don't even know like who if at first blush, who would you say has an ego but doesn't, but it's just the energy and the effort and how you just like, I definitely want to have beer and wings with Poyer and Hyde.
Yeah.
I mean, they're electrifying.
Yeah. I
So
think
the
Diggs
good,
is the same way. I think Diggs has that quiet ego about him. He knows he's good. He knows, but with his knowledge that he's good, he knows there's a lot expected of him. So
Mhm.
like he carries that line, like you know what I'm saying. Like he put same thing with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. Same thing. There's just a quiet confidence and
Yeah.
understanding that I'm here for a reason.
Yeah. And then, but we're balancing this game on officiating at the end of the game. I know you're not, but I look at like, oh, well, Diggs should have caught the ball last week when it dropped into the box. That's a hard catch, man. That
For sure.
thing's dropping in, the wind's affecting it.
For
I think
sure.
the bigger play is you got to make the field goal. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't that far, and I get it. It's windy, but make the field goal, and then we kick a field goal and win.
Yeah.
And this week, I mean, there's a couple of plays that just contributed to extending their drives and killing our drives.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Got another super chat from Pamela. Pamela, thank you so much for being a part of the show. That fourth quarter felt like they finally got their groove back. Was it just a teaser, or is this the team we will see for the rest of the season? That's a great question, and I wish I could answer it for you.
yeah, no, it will be. It will be the team we see for the rest of the season. Why? Because I believe more than Joe Miller believes.
I'm the one that started my show last night saying that's the moment that the Mafia began to believe again.
Minus Joe Miller, as I think of what I said. No, I think, so much of what you said is true. And so much of it is opportunistic, right? I mean, this was the real Josh Allen. This was the electrifying up-tempo offense that we wanted to see. But they're playing a little bit of a prevent, right? They weren't pressing the ball as an offense. But the truth is we have the tools, we have the players. We have got to get rid of the little inconsistencies. And is that the confidence level? Like, when I coached in high school, and I hate to refer back to that because it's not the same thing. I looked at the guys and I said, none of you get to have a mistake. Because as soon as you think you get to have one mistake, then if everybody on the team that steps on the field gets to have, oh, it's okay, I only made one mistake. Well, now you got 42 mistakes.
Right.
So you can play mistake-free football. You can.
Yeah.
And I always tell, like, the way you win a football game, the people who make the fewest errors. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Mike Kingsley is a good friend of mine. Mike, welcome into the show. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for the super chat as well. TB, I'm guessing he's saying Tom Brady called a timeout because they were winded. That was in the fourth quarter.
Bay, I think.
Yeah. Oh, Tampa Bay, gotcha. Called the timeout because they were winded. That's true. That was in the last 2 minutes of the game, and the Bills were out of timeouts, and we were in the stands, and like a timeout got called, and like the dude next to me was like, "Oh, the Bills just took their last timeout." I was like, "Nope, they didn't have any." And then it was like Tampa took a timeout. Does this game prompt the Bills to go more no huddle, which I guess is a piggyback off of Pam's question, a la the advent of the K gun? I don't know that they went no huddle. They were just basically up tempo. There's a difference.
Well, okay. I think the first thing is you have to address, do we have the personnel to do it? And I think the answer is yes, because we don't do a lot of tight end sets and we don't do a lot of fullback sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the personnel is there. We have, I think, my opinion, the type of receivers that you want. They're smaller, they're fit, and they have great quickness, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not long, tall guys that make slower cuts, slower movements. I mean, you look at Cole Beasley and you think, my God, how do not all of his ligaments just come shooting out of his body the way he cuts and moves, right?
Right.
So I don't think they'll go to that. I don't think that's Dabo's style.
Right.
But I think they're equipped to.
Yeah.
The other thing, the toll, it's kind of a kiss me deadly. So when the K gun worked, the defensive linemen were so tired they couldn't raise their arms.
Right.
But when it didn't work, it was miserable for us.
Yeah.
I mean, you just felt like you were, pushing a wall. It just, nothing was happening.
For sure. Richard Rush, my guy, says, Joe, my wife says you need to take Collinsworth's place in the box next to Al Michaels. This is what I can tell you. I don't know if this would work or not. I can just tell you that they would save a whole lot of money by hiring me over Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah, he's not as bad as who's the other. I like this guy. Who was that? Was that Dan Deerdorf?
Oh, yeah. Stash.
No, Matt.
We used to call him Stash. Matt Millen? Oh, Matt Millen. Oh, yeah. Deerdorf's retired. Matt Millen.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. They're interchangeable to me.
Was awful. He was a
did a game. He did a game this weekend, right? Or I heard him and I was like, oh my God, it's that guy again.
Deerdorf was the classic Bills hater in the 90s. He hated you guys. Like he couldn't, and he always ended up with your guys, like calling your guys' games, which is even funnier. Pamela jumps in with another super chat. Did the O-line play better in the fourth, or was that Josh just taking over? I mean, the O-line has sucked. Did they all of a sudden get better?
Yeah, Pamela's sending that question out because she's trying to bait me. So when people say that, it's this really cool like ambiguity, right? So you can't really track every receiver. Like, well, why didn't the receiver come open? I mean, in my opinion, if you're covering me man to man, Joe, if you have me covered, that's my failure, right?
Right.
So how many times does a receiver not get open when he's being covered by a guy? So is that as equally poor as offensive line play? I will say yes.
Yes,
but the problem is it's harder to define, right? You can't say, oh, the receivers played poorly because it's really hard to kind of quantify. But you can always say, you give up one sack, oh, the offensive line was terrible. And I always say my response to people who address that to me on Twitter, et cetera, I say, specifically tell me which plays you want me to review, and I will give you a very specific answer. Yeah. I don't think that the offensive line played horribly. I mean, it's hard to find a game with 0 sacks. Again, I mean, I don't think they're playing great, but everybody wants, rail on the offensive line. Again, I challenge anybody to show me exactly what they know and what they see. So Josh, of course, and this is part of it too. How can Josh make his energy, to Pam's point, to take over in the first quarter?
Right.
Jim Kelly had that. Like whether you like Jim or not, you played for the guy. And I think Josh is there on the cusp of it. But you've got to, it's got to be, I got to own it a little bit. And the quarterback also has to pull it out of you a little bit in some instances. That's what leadership is. So I'm not blaming Josh. I'm just saying, they got to figure out a way to give me, if we have 2.5 quarters of that, we win the football game. If we have 3 quarters of that, we win by 14.
Sure. I think there's something to be said for, there's things that coaching can do to help that coaching has not done. So, and we've talked about it on the show. They're running a cover 2 shell. Can't play football. They're running a cover 2 shell. Well, run plays that beat a cover 2 shell that pull them out of that
running plays,
right? Or pseudo running plays with the pass. And whether it's the play calling or Allen's reluctance to have done it this year, the Bills have struggled mightily. There's also things that the Bills can do, the coaching staff can do to help the offensive line, and it's not just running the ball; it's getting the ball out fast. So if you know your offensive line can't hold up, why is he dropping 8 yards? Why is he dropping 9 yards? Like, that was the amazing thing too. I was focused on that, watching that game live, just being there and where we were at. I just had a good view of what I wanted to look at, which was watching the defense. But when Hughes was rushing and they were rushing to a spot, Brady was always stopping a yard short on his dropbacks from wherever Mario Addison and Hughes were aiming for. Every single time he'd get the ball, drop back and stop, and Hughes and Addison, the ball would be gone. But they were like, where they were going to, he was not there. He was in front of it.
Well, I mean, that's the whole point, by dropping at 7.5 yards. And it also goes to that point of when you do have deep drops and guys are really getting close like that, they get more confidence and they come, I don't want to say harder, but they have a deeper belief.
Yeah.
And it's hard and Brady has always historically got the ball out super fast. But you brought up something. I tried to get through the second quarter before our call. I watched the first quarter and I'm not seeing any, I shouldn't say any, I'm not seeing enough creativity from the defensive ends on their pass rush.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm seeing a lot of run up to a guy like this. I'm not seeing half a man, shoulder low. It's not what it needs to be.
A little vanilla.
It's I don't want to say vanilla. Like, I don't see what the premier, like, I can't look other than Hughes and say what each guy's first best pass rush move is.
Right.
Right. And I just haven't seen it.
Right. Another super chat from Triggs. Triggs, thanks so much for being on the show tonight. That's on Dable and what he's calling, and he's asking the question. So I think he's referring to what I said, just about doing things to pull them out of the cover two shell, doing things to help the line. It's on coaching, and I think you would agree. It's more about philosophy. Who does Dable want this offense to be versus who they can be, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're getting out coached in the first and second quarter in all three of these losses.
Every week. Every week.
You, as an offense, you have to run the play that's called, and you've got to quickly diagnose. And I think the defensive quality control guys too have got a part in this. When you're watching the game, and this is why, I could only ever be on the sideline and not in the booth, because I mean, you need to see, like, what adjustments are they making? What did we expect? And what look are they giving us? Mm-hmm. Now, look, I've been in games before where they lined up and just played the damn defense we were expecting, and we got our butts handed to us. So without knowing what the plan is and the expectations, I know we're going to look at a couple of plays here.
Yeah.
But, if occasionally a team will run a play that they haven't run before, and then you're like, oh my God, now you're going to the sideline, you're drawing things in the dirt, you're the bottle cap, I'm the stick, we're not privy to that. But
right.
By the middle of the second quarter or the beginning of the second quarter, if there are wholesale changes that look different than what you prepared for, then people need to be putting their brains together.
For sure.
So taking what they give.
Let's take a look at a couple plays. So the first one that we're going to look at is on the good is Matt Milano. So things that we like from the game. And there wasn't a ton of plays for me to kind of grab because the ball was coming out so fast. It was hard to kind of digest. Or Allen was like he'd take 2 steps, 3 steps, and already take a move to basically avoid the rush. So I pulled what I could. But this is the Milano sack. So as I roll this,
freeze it at the end zone look when you get there.
Gotcha.
I can watch this part.
Yep. Oh, actually, I'm going to back it up first. What I think is interesting in this, I actually stopped it perfectly. Tremaine Edmonds is down here on the left side of Jerry Hughes, which is interesting to me because you see Brady pointing and declaring that Milano is the mic. And I'm not sure that just because Tremaine Edmonds has moved, does that automatically make Milano the mic, or do you understand my question?
Do I understand your question? That's
in Tom Brady's declaration that Milano's the mic. That's what he's doing. He's pointing at Milano. 58 is the mic.
Yeah, so the point can mean two different things, right? Because if I always point at Milano, if I'm Brady, and if I always point at him, then if we figure out that where Brady points the offensive line goes, then we're going to be able to just kill him. But sometimes, depending on the play call, if the point is Milano, it means we're giving him to the back and not the line. So we did this in Buffalo all the time. We'd have 4 major drop back protections, and on 2 of them, the point was for the offensive line. On the other 2, the point was for the running back. So it's really hard to determine whether Brady is saying, Leonard, you have him, or I have him, or the offensive line has him.
Right.
So it's curious here, and I'm glad you brought it up, because when we get to the end zone view, this alignment, shame on the Bucs here. Because we've shown this alignment before, and we've ran a blitz that's very similar to this.
Right. So Milano, and if he was pointing him out being the mic.
So when you freeze it here, look at the alignment of the nose tackle. We have a shade or a 1 and a 3 on the same side as the defensive end. The last time we lined up in this was 2 games ago. We had a sack. We ran it as a game with that Oliver coming through, if memory serves. But the guard here, I don't know what they're thinking. So let's say Milano's the point, right?
Yeah.
So Brady's pointing at Milano. Then the right guard, who doesn't have a single threat inside of him because the nose tackle is to the left of the center, I just don't understand why he doesn't take a step back and secure the tackle's block with his right hand, right? He needs to get his hand up under Jerry Hughes' breastplate. And the 2 of them, Wirfs and the guard, need to read between Milano and Tremaine Edmonds, who's coming. But what he does is virtually nothing. He's sliding to the left, but then he reacts as if he thinks Milano is his responsibility. So, I mean, this is similar to what Spencer Brown did in the first quarter on the sack.
Gotcha.
I don't know what I'm doing. It's
Gotcha.
either the wrong call or the wrong communication. But if I'm the right guard here, I'm backing up. Remember we talked about getting sugared?
Mm-hmm.
He's getting sugared right now. The threat is in front of him to the outside. He should be setting almost like a tackle.
Gotcha. So he should be in a 3. Oh no, he is. He's well in the moment he's in a 2-point stance.
No. Setting. He should be setting.
Gotcha.
So his right foot comes up. Now he's screwed. Hughes presses the inside shoulder of Ward.
First step, he's screwed.
Oh yeah. You don't think so?
No. It's just funny to me that's what, like, just from his first step up, you're screwed. It's over.
He's done. So what happens is he goes forward. Now right there, he's done. If he had done what I said, set like a tackle and stayed square with Wirfs, if Milano comes, he can float to the inside and ping Milano. He only weighs 180 pounds. And if Milano goes to the outside, we trade the game.
Right.
But he puts himself in no man's land. Wirfs can't hand him off. Look at Wirfs' head right now. He's like, dude, I can't believe you didn't trade with me and take Milano.
Right.
So I could take Milano.
Right.
So this is a guard error. But what's shameful is we showed this look and we got a sack on it. Tampa Bay should have known better.
It's interesting to me that he got home, and we don't see a lot of pressure. We don't see a lot of rushes. And as much as this is a blitz, the
reason he got home, at the luxury of interrupting you, as I often do, apologies not extended. If you look right now to the middle of the field, he doesn't see Milano. He doesn't feel the pressure. And when he does, the problem is Gronkowski's breaking right into whomever is in the secondary right on the Buck logo right there. So he can't go to the middle of the field. And he doesn't have the confidence with F.A. Obata coming free and getting held uncalled to get that out route over there.
I can't
step in to get Fournette.
I didn't even look at Obata, but yeah, he is being held there. And there was no flag. No flag on that one.
Why would you call a flag, Joe?
Not that we're surprised. Not that we're surprised.
Anyway, we dwelled on that a long time. Anybody listening, should really go back and review the show because that's really cool defense. But shame on Tampa for not recognizing that.
Yeah, and then the last good one that we have from this one is the long Dawson Knox run on the final drive for the Buffalo Bills.
And pause it.
Oops, I'm not in the right spot. Hang on a second.
That's all right.
You want me back up to here?
So pause it now. Well, give me another frame. So right there. So I don't know if Knox knows it or recognizes it, but they know that this is going to be a blitz formation, right? Mm-hmm. So the cool thing is he breaks it off. I'm sure it's a planned call, but he's recognizing that the middle of the field is going to be open. So whether that is exactly what he's supposed to do or he recognizes it, he calls it what we call breaking off the route, right? Zero coverage. They're bringing 6. We only got 5 to block. Break it off and get to an open space. Now, I'm making a big deal out of this because it was in the first quarter with 11 minutes and 31 seconds left. No, sorry. It was in the second quarter. Gabe Davis is running down the left sideline. We really needed him. Josh had a little bit of pressure. It was zero pressure, and he threw shallow to like 11 yards, and Gabe was 21 yards down the field. And that to me is a function of if you're taking off from the line of scrimmage and you see the pressure coming, you have to break off your route. That's why Josh threw the ball. So that's the responsibility of the receiver. So, Pam, receivers are playing terrible.
Yeah, he expected Gabe to break it off, which we saw them do a lot last year, like perfectly, and this year just hasn't been there. There is an end zone view of this run as well, and I cut it off here in a second, so we'll get there. Yeah, right here.
So watch Knox, and this is kind of funny because we talked about this. Look at Deion Dawkins, right? He could have gone back and helped on the 3 technique like he did not too long ago.
Yeah, last week when you yelled at him for going to find work.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful play. And like, when you're talking about the offensive line, like man on a helmet on a helmet on a helmet all the way around, like this is a perfect pocket. And you see how open the middle of the field is, which is tremendous.
So we see, Spencer Brown got beat on one actual pass rush. The other one, obviously he made a mental error on, or somebody else made a mental error. It was Josh's guy, but it looked like it was Spencer's. But the one he got beat on by, was his name Shaquille Barrett?
Yeah.
He's just not punching. He's a big, long SOB. And in that environment, if you get off the ball just a skosh late and you're coming out of a 3-point stance and you're turning quick, you cannot place your hands. Okay. We are not putting clothes on a mannequin here. You got to blow the guy up. I mean, my arms are like 37, right? Sleeve.
Right.
He's probably a 44. Right. And this is what Tom Bresnahan used to always say, you can't not fire your hands. Shoot those 2x4s, buddy. Shoot them 2x4s. You can't not do that because you're worried about what he's going to do instead. You just have to do it because that's what you do. And if he just takes the edge off of Shaquille by throwing his hands out there, it's a timing and it's a confidence thing. And look, sometimes you will throw it out there and you will get beat, but at least you're getting beat doing the right technique, being aggressive. That's true.
So in the comments section, we have a super chat from Pamela. I'll jump that up first. She said, Fina, I was talking about the lineman protecting Josh. So, but I think you were moving
she
that.
Was
focus.
Baiting me, saying that the line was terrible. I know what you were talking about.
But you were moving the focus, the lens, the scope of the gun to the skill positions, which is a classic John Fina pivot on the Off Tackle with John Fina show. But I want to. So while we've been talking, there's been comments and that they've been talking just about Josh and comparing him to Jim because you talked about Jim, and then they basically said, well, Jim was more mature at the point where you started playing with him and kind of had been in the league, but when Jim got here, even with playing with the Gamblers for a couple of years and winning with the Gamblers, he was still young and really made a lot of mistakes. And this is an interesting point from Jessica Tennis that I wanted to bring up or comment. And she says, she's talking to Pamela, I think Josh is getting to the point of wanting to win more than being friends. It's a maturity step for a quarterback. Did you feel that? Was that an understanding thing? Like when it came to Jim, does Aaron Rodgers carry that? Peyton Manning carry that?
I think what Jessica's saying, and well, I don't know, I can't crawl in Jessica's head, but everybody wants to win. Okay. Let's get rid of that. I mean, people would throw Joe's grandmother into the street to win. I mean, that's just the way it is. But the execution of that. No, I'm just kidding. Grandma, you're good. You're good with me.
They're both in the ground.
Oh, well, God rest their souls. You know what I meant. So I get where she's going with that, right? The sentiment is there. But I said to my son, you got to find your voice, right? So Bruno, well, I don't want to call him out on the show. He was like, I want to be a bigger leader. And I said, well, you just got to, you got to find your voice and you got to just use it and just say and do. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not perfect. And I'm like, well, that's the thing. You can't think you have to be perfect to call everybody out. I mean, that's why I would lay in traffic for Thurman Thomas, because Thurman Thomas would freaking call me out as we would everybody else on the offense, get right up in your face, all 5'4" of them, and call your, out. Right. But the beauty of it was when he screwed up, he would say, give it back to me. Give it back to me. Right. You don't have to be perfect to be a leader, to be a vocal leader. And maybe he needs to go challenge everybody, not because he's perfect. Right. You could physically go around the locker room and say, Ike, I am challenging you this week to be assignment perfect football, to play with great effort, and to get excited from the first snap all the way to the last snap. Right. You could, it sounds gimmicky, it sounds goofy, but honestly, if you're hoisting the trophy at the end of the year, who cares? You do what you got to do. I agree. So I don't know if that's missing. I'm not in the locker room, Joe. Quit putting me on the spot.
It's what I do. It's what I'm here for. I'm here to bring the fan connected to the former player who is also a fan to flesh out the things that we wonder about, because we are not privy to any of it. So you've at least been in the locker room. So when we talk about the work and the things that we didn't like from this football game, we've already pretty much established, both of us, that the Bills to come off of that loss from the Patriots, know that you're sitting at 7-5, looking up at the Patriots, taking another loss is what that means, and to come out both sides of the ball flat. So they played complementary football in the first and second quarter of this football game. The defense was horrible. The offense was horrible. They did it together. Like the offense didn't help the defense didn't help the offense. So we've established that, and you have established as well that this game just kind of isn't sitting with you well as far as that goes. Do you want to add anything else before we get to a couple different plays that I've got pulled up?
No, I think you said it well. It's not sitting with me because I just don't like the way they're starting slow. It's just, Yeah, there's got to be some excitement. We need to see. Look, if we're going to rush force, somebody has to make one of the offensive linemen pee a little bit. There's got to be a threat. It can't just always be Jerry Hughes and occasionally Ed Oliver. And I'm not picking on Ed. It's just that's the hardest position to get there from.
Yep.
And we got to have more. And we got to be assignment perfect on offense. We're not good enough, clearly, to make little errors. We're not good enough to have, a half-ass block by the tight end or the receiver or a missed assignment by the offensive line. We're just not that good. We just can't recover. We need to stress being assignment perfect.
But go ahead.
I think these guys have the want to. I think they have the effort. They have the desire. I think they have the skills. They've just got to be. It's this or the hangman's noose.
But I think they were more, to your point, that phrase is great, assignment perfect last year than they were this year. Unless Josh was covering up Josh's flair for the dramatic and his ability to escape and make things happen, a la what we saw where it was the Saints game where like he goes to throw we talked about it last week, goes to throw the screen pass to Breida. Breida's not there. So he spins out and finds Knox for a touchdown, just throws a dart to him on the other side of the field. It's brought back because they're blocking downfield because it's supposed to be a screen pass. I don't know if last year, if Allen was covering,
that's not a mistake. That's just happens.
But to my point, yeah, but that was pretty bad. That's
not an assignment error.
Okay, I mean, isn't Breida's assignment to go to the left and not to the right?
Oh yeah, but I thought you were blaming the offensive line for being
no. I'm not blaming the offensive line at all. I'm blaming Breida. I feel like we didn't see.
Well, look, I mean, you can show that Breida play. I think it's next. No, I don't want to watch the Fournette touchdown. Let's skip that one and go to the Breida play because we're running out of time.
Gotcha.
You like to end on time. I guess you got a date or something.
No, we can hang out longer. So this is the Matt Breida where he misses the block on Devin White. Yeah,
so I don't even know. How old is Matt Breida? How many years in is this?
I don't know. He wears number 22, so I don't know.
He's 22 years old. Is every time. So the issue here is
I'll find out. Go ahead.
No, I mean they have the perfect play on. What can Matt Breida do differently? If you are running a run fake and there's pressure coming, so Breida knows that he's his guy. That's his guy, right?
Right.
On the snap of the ball, there's no doubt 45 is coming. So forget the fake, abort, set your feet, and let Josh have a chance. So it's if he just right there stops, he's got to see it sooner than that.
What's amazing?
See it at the snap.
This is that, to your point, turn the lights on moment in the locker room or in the meeting room this week.
But this is not an easy one, Joe. This is not an easy one. But when you're back there pre-snap, lined up, if that's your only responsibility is that blitzing linebacker, and he takes one step toward the line of scrimmage on the snap of the ball, then going up there and flying up there like that is the wrong way to do it. Abort on the fake and slide. The problem is he's too aggressive and he's not just kind of sliding down the line.
Right. What's interesting about it, so he's 26 years old, so he's still pretty young.
Yeah, it's a good defensive play.
Yeah, as footballers go. I think the problem that I have with this, and the reason that I pulled it up, is like he didn't even get a chip on him. He didn't slow White down at all.
Well, it's the angle that we're looking at it
for sure,
as opposed to what happens in real life.
But this is an assignment issue, correct?
No, he's got the right assignment. He's got the wrong execution.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if he maybe did see it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to split hairs.
No, you're good. And then the last one is it's a Breida play, but it's not Breida, which is the fake punt. And for me,
this one hurts my brain.
For me, I basically went off on my show last night just talking about the fact that we're running a fake punt with the fastest guy on both teams, and a fat guy tackles him. And you kind of had a different take, which was great. So.
Well, I mean, my take on it is you're running an offensive line blocking scheme with a bunch of guys who would be much better off running a pin and pull or angle blocking scheme to create a, what Joe hates, running the ball into the middle kind of situation. So this play dies on Matakevich's block because you're asking a linebacker to block zone blocking, and he just frees the guy up. I mean, this is how we would trade trades that we'd zone block a defensive end to the linebacker like we used to do in the olden days, where I get the guy on my inside shoulder a little bit. And then if the linebacker comes, I stay on him. And if the linebacker flies, the guard comes up, on my hiney and takes over the defensive end. But this is a single man block. He's got nobody on his inside. So you got a linebacker basically performing a reach block, which he turns into a zone block with nobody zoning with him. It's poor design. No, look, I mean, most of these don't go anyway, but this one's a dead from the beginning. I think just by the design of it. I think you ask people to do things they can't do or don't know how to do.
What's interesting, and that's the biggest pet peeve of mine in all of this. And then people just go, well, they didn't execute the play. Well, they couldn't.
So let me tell you something. When it comes to zone blocking schemes like this, and we've talked. I constantly bring up my high school coaching, and I know there's people out there going, "You the high school blah blah blah." So when you zone block, you're doing this kind of thing, right? These two guys have these two guys. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Hang on, let me dump this.
So that's a zone block.
It looks like Josh Allen's potato buffalo, by the way.
So here's the tackle. The tackle aims for the outside shoulder, and then if I have this block. This is a linebacker. If the linebacker comes, then the guard takes the linebacker, and the tackle stays on the end.
Right.
And so my point of showing you that, I know it's going to be kind of dumb in the end. Installing zone blocking is like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of reps. Like we repped the living hell. We did this every day in practice and training camp. We did it twice a day, 30 times a practice.
Right.
And you're like, what's the big deal? You just go that way. There's so much feel to it. You got to know the guy who's next to you. How fast is he? When's he coming up? Does he read the same things I'm reading? It's, Ruben and I played together for 7 years. We didn't even think anymore. We just did, signals like this and, but to throw that kind of reach blocking, I just think I don't know. It's just a bad design. You put guys in a position to fail when you do that.
Well, before we segue wholly to the Buffalo Bills and what's next, as far as next expectations, I am pretty confident that we are ready to make an announcement for this show. What's expected next for us next week? Joining us, if you want to make the announcement, who's going to be joining? We got a special guest next week. That's going to be.
You read my mind, Joe. We're like this. We're
like whatever that means.
I'm so excited. Next week, the indomitable, the amazing, my brother, Ruben Brown is coming on the show, baby.
We couldn't see the card. It was totally
That's okay.
Up.
I said
it. So Ruben Brown is going to be joining us next week. Go ahead.
Yep. So excited. I talked to him quite a bit this week. Ruben and I are just thick as thieves. I mean, probably my closest brother from the old days, with Jerry and Glenn being right up there. But, Ruben and I, there's something about consistently playing next to a guy, with Glenn and I did and Jerry and I did. But Ruben and I were, I think, and this is not a stat, but I think Ruben and I were one of the, if not the longest running tandem guard tackle combo in the NFL. Really?
At the time?
I don't think anybody else has gone 7 years.
Was it 7 years? Why do I know Ruben went to the Browns and he finished his career there.
That would be the Bears.
My apologies, the Bears. I'm literally looking at him in his uniform in black, the dark blue. It's not black, but I didn't realize that he played for the Bills for 7 years. I thought it was 4. I thought he was one contract and out.
Ruben?
Yeah, I didn't realize he
had 2 contracts.
Yeah, I didn't realize he had gotten a second. So that's interesting. I learned something today. Yeah, I'm excited about that show. Now, when it comes to next expectations for the Buffalo Bills, clearly, if they're going to win the AFC East, they're going to have to win out. And that starts with the Carolina Panthers at home this weekend, which the weather is going to play a factor in that. Not because
to win the East, they have to win out.
I would say so. Just when you look at who the Patriots are a game and a half up on them. They had a bye week this week. So,
but to win the East, the best record in the East. So, how many does New England have any losses in the East?
Well, no. I mean, if the Patriots have a better record than the Bills, they win the East. So you can
win the division with a worse record.
No, if the Patriots are 12-5 and the Bills are 11-6, the Patriots win the division.
Oh, okay. Well, technically you're right. But I would say if you're
this is a monumental moment.
If you're 6-0 in the division and the other, or you're 5-1 and the other team is 4-2, you won the division.
No, it's a tiebreaker. That's a tiebreaker.
I know. I'm just trying. No, I look. I think there's got to be a reckoning. I mean, I still believe in our secondary. I don't have any real issues there. I mean, I think we've got to get better play on the defensive end position.
I thought they played well against probably two of the best wide receivers in the league. They did a good job. I mean, Brady threw for 350 something yards in the game, but for all intents and purposes, I thought Wallace and Dane Jackson played well in that football game.
Well, and there's another thing too about calling those penalties. I mean, that's a confidence wrecker. Like, I'm playing good football here, and you're ticky-tacking me to death, and you won't call anything on the other guy. You start to get a little,
Yeah.
And look, the entire offense has to get better.
Yeah.
And it may not be physically for Josh or execution wise, but maybe it's leadership wise. Maybe it's understanding what motivates every guy in the locker room and keeping crib sheets and going up and be like, "Hey Miller," and talking to you about your kids or something, and get you up for that game.
Yeah. So the Bills have to win out basically. And as Chris has said, the Pats, if they lose to the Bills and the Colts, and both those games are potential lose games for the Patriots, then the Bills do win the East. As far as that goes, and that's the goal. The goal is not necessarily to make the playoffs. The goal
where's the Colts Pats game?
I think it's this weekend. So the Colts,
where Indy or
I'll look it up real quick. So Patriots, oopsies, 2021 schedule. So what? Anything else for you as far as what the Bills have to improve on this season to win out, to do what we need them to do?
I guess they can improve on not aggravating me.
Touche. Patriots at Colts, 8:20 Saturday night. So it's a Saturday night game at 8:20.
All right, I think that's a toss-up.
I think the Colts have a really good shot of winning that football game.
That's what I said. Toss-up.
Yeah, for sure. Closing thoughts, big guy.
I saw a lot of kind of disappointing commentary on the Twitter box during the game, and I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm just going to say that I'm taking note, and you can be upset without having your comments be, and look, I'm not your parent, right? I mean, I just can't stand it. And I get mad. Say it into the void. And for those of you who are always upbeat and maybe be disappointed, but aren't like shellacking players and people and stuff like that, I applaud you. And I'm in your camp. And if people hear me and say, screw you, Fina, then that's cool too. First Amendment, baby.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff King with a little chat here, and I'll throw this up there because I love it. Gentlemen, Merry Christmas to you and your families. Go Bills. Right back at you, Jeff. It is the holiday season.
Yeah, Jeff, I would say that's very accurate and much appreciated sentiment, except for the gentleman part.
Well, you've got that gentleman's hat on,
Merry Christmas to you.
I think you just assumed that you were a gentleman wearing that fedora.
I'm only doing this because I had plastic surgery and I don't want anybody to see.
You had that double chin removed.
I was like Nancy Pelosi during COVID, right? Nobody got surgery and she went in and got her neck done and she wore Hermes scarf for like 18 weeks in a row.
Are you saying this whole COVID thing is a conspiracy that just allowed her to get
to hide Nancy Pelosi's plastic surgery? I don't think anybody can hide that.
Sorry, I digress. I apologize if I crossed the line.
You didn't digress. I thought that was brilliant.
We will end the show on that. No, John, this was a great show, man. I appreciate you and everything that you bring to the Mafia. And I know that you, I know you widescreen it, so I don't know if you see the comments or not, but just
I've been reading them. I finally figured out how to do that.
Yeah, so just seeing what people say, and I hope you read it and take it to heart, just as far as people loving the show and loving what you do and breaking it down for people and making it palatable for those of us that didn't play at your level.
I do have to say, for all you newcomers, thank you. Even if you hate me, and all of our regulars, it's so great to have you. I mean, this is it's been a kiss me deadly. I say that all the time to Joe. Like, I don't want to watch the games over when we lose, but I got to watch them over to prepare and talk about it. And it takes me back. There's a feeling in my belly right now and in my chest like I went out and played that game because of Joe Miller forcing me, and guilting me and shaming me into doing all this film study. And it just makes me like, I feel like I'm back in the day in the locker room with the guys, when really I'm just in a bathtub covered in gallons of Q42 barbecue sauce. Iman Aziz, you make great sauce, buddy. Thank you for your sponsorship to the Bills Mafia out there. Thanks for coming on our show. You guys are the best.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by Q42 on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast and vidcast network. Do what you can to enjoy this week. Take it for what it is. It's time to believe again. Well, there's 4 games left in the season. All is not lost. The Bills are still in the 7 seed, so they are not in the hunt at this point. They are in the playoffs. So let's keep our heads up. To John's point, let's not call out players. Call out the refs all that you want. Tag NFL officiating and tag the NFL commissioner. But the players, they came to play on Sunday, and they came back in a very, very hard-fought battle after they dug themselves into a pretty deep hole. So, but for myself, Joe Miller, for John Fina, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys being a part of the show as always. That's all I got. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Oh, and tune in next week. Ruben Brown.
Ruben Brown.